I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not really a huge fan of roguelikes or roguelite games. Now, while I think it's almost impossible to deny that this style of game can provide players with lots of in-game hours or differing styles of gameplay, stuff like that, the whole die and restart from the beginning approach never really appealed to me. This is mainly because I think, to me, it just seems like there's no bearing on the story here, for the most part. Of course I'm generalizing a bit here, but I'm probably not alone with that line of thinking. So, enter Supergiant's game Hades, a game that ties the whole dying aspect of the genre into their game like no other game before it, and delivers something really special for fans of the subgenre, and for gamers like me that are willing to give it a try. Danny from the Famicast here. If this is your first time to the channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications. Today, we're taking a spoiler-free look at Hades on the Nintendo Switch, talking about gameplay, story, kind of, not like anything specific, and also talking about how it performs on Nintendo's hybrid console. So, Hades is set in the world of Greek mythology. The game puts players in the role of Zagreus, the rogue son of Hades himself, and he's looking to basically escape the underworld. Now, in case you couldn't tell from the footage, Hades is presented from a top-down isometric perspective. The game has players going through a random assortment of rooms across different locations throughout the underworld. Of course, each of these rooms are filled with enemies that need to be killed. Now, if you take out all the enemies in the room, you'll be awarded with some kind of item that will help you along your way. Now, there are actually quite a few things to get here. Cash that can only be used in the underworld, keys that can be used to unlock weapons, and more. And purple orbs or crystals called darkness that can be used to power up Zagreus permanently. Now, here you're going to have a number of different weapons to choose from before you start your run. Now, while the available weaponry is limited at first, the more you play, the more you will be able to unlock. Now, the more you play with the specific weapon, the more you're going to learn about it too, through entries about the weapons in your codex, like this thing that keeps track of a lot of the narrative stuff here. Now, each weapon is quite different and can suit a number of different playstyles here. Now, close-up melee combat, long-range, mid-range weapons, and more are at your disposal. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything here, but while you might find yourself gravitating toward a single weapon early on, I think it really benefits you to try them all out if you can. Hades also has more powerful upgrades that you'll receive from gods called Boons. Now, these are given to you directly from the gods of Mount Olympus during your runs. These are different from the regular power-ups that you might receive throughout the game because they usually have some kind of elemental aspect to them or offer something that's unique to the god in question. Now, I could probably spend at least 10 minutes or more going through this aspect of the game alone, but just let me say that there are a lot of different boons that can be had, some better than others. And you don't have much control over who or what will appear for the most part, so it's really in your best interest to try out a number of these to see which best suits your style of play. Now, of course, if any of you guys out there have any favorites, be sure to let us know in the comments below. I'm actually curious to hear a little bit more about that. Now, while all these boons and power-ups are great, the moment you die, they will become meaningless, and you have to start over from the House of Hades all over again. Now, like I mentioned above, there are some items that you collect that will carry over. Darkness, for operating Zag, the keys for unlocking the weapons and more, and the gemstones that you can pick up along the way too. These things can be used to kind of tidy up the House of Hades. These all carry over. So, interestingly, the conversations and places that you visited along the way will also be the key to unlocking more about the story and the characters. Also the world, enemies, and more. Now, there's a lot of information that you can get, and what's more, it ties into the story. Now, in the world of Hades, anyone that dies will wind up in the House of Hades and await to hear judgment by the big man himself. The same goes for Zagreus too. Well, kind of minus the judgment part, I guess. Now, other characters in the house that are kind of like hanging around and stuff, they'll make comments about the foe who killed you. Hades is going to belittle you. And, like I said, yeah, everybody else that's in the house too, they might have some kind of comments about some of the gods or other characters that you might have met across your run. Now, it's really seamless, and it makes this whole roguelite element of the game that much more transparent. It's probably my favorite aspect of the game, is it just makes so much more sense for the entirety of this world to evolve around death. The conversations with the characters, just kind of like what I mentioned, be that being the characters that are actually living in the House of Hades or the gods that you'll encounter out on your runs, all of these are extremely well done. Very rarely will you ever have some kind of repeated dialogue or come across something that you might already know. In this way, regardless of whether you make it out of the underworld or perish or whatever, you're always advancing the story in some meaningful way. The thing about Hades is, it's okay to die. It happens. From there, you can only take what you learned and gained from your experience to have a better run next time. or not. It just kind of depends on how lucky you get with the boons and stuff like that too. But one of the things I really like too is just having these fun conversations with these characters, because they're just so cool to interact with and just a lot of fun. Now on the visual side of things for Hades, it looks pretty fantastic, even on the Switch. Now the art design is great here, with all the characters looking their godly, or in some cases ungodly, parts. So for the most part the game also runs pretty smoothly. However, I did run into a little bit of slowdown. And this seemed to only happen when there were a lot of enemies on screen. It wasn't unbearable or anything, but it's something that I think you will notice from time to time. Now, having not played Hades on any of the other platforms or anything like that, I can't really comment, as to whether or not this is something that only happens in this specific Switch version of the game. Now, so yeah, mileage may vary on that. Now, playing in handheld mode is also a very welcome feature here, and it's something that I've actually been playing quite a bit here with my time with the game. The game looks and performs nicely too. There is still issues with the slowdown like I mentioned above, but it's still not bad. As of right now, there are plans for cross-save functionality to be added to the game between PC and the Switch. Now, unfortunately, it's been postponed, but just know that this is something that is being worked on, and it's set to release at some point in late 2020. So, depending on when you're actually watching this video, this might be something you might be able to make use of now, or you might have to play the waiting game there. The audio in Hades is another strong point of the game. Now, not only are the music choices here just great to listen to, they really fit the situations that Zagreus will find himself in. Now, if you're walking around some of the earlier parts of the underworld, the music will be kind of upbeat, but not too menacing. Whereas facing off against a boss character will kick things up quite a notch, often adding guitar riffs and other instrumentals to make the encounter sound as epic as they look and feel. Now, for the conversations, like I mentioned earlier, these are also really well done. The voice actors that they have, and this is fully voiced here too, by the way, they really knock it out of the park and just kind of make it believable with the different dialogue that they'll have with Zagreus and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just really well done, and it really helps tie the story all together. Simply put, if you don't have Hades on Switch or anything like that by now, I really think you should pick it up. The gameplay here is super solid, it's fun and varied, the art style and the graphics are fantastic, and the story beats are interesting and with great voice work and just audio in general just being awesome. Now, aside from some very minor performance issues that I mentioned before, this is definitely a must-own game that will keep you busy for a long time. It's the kind of game that you can just keep coming back to over and over. And not only that, it's the perfect encapsulation of what a roguelike or roguelite should be. Now, before we close out the video, I do want to give a special shout out to my buddy, the Zega, who actually kept telling me to buy this game over and over and over. I'm really glad that I did. Thanks for suggesting it, man. It was always fun to watch you play, and it's just great to be able to actually play it myself now. Be sure to check out the Zega on Twitch or Twitter at the Zega. Now, to close us out, as always, thanks for checking out this video. If you like what you see, please feel free to give us a like. If you're new to the channel, please be sure to subscribe. We've got tons of podcasts, video reviews, special videos, and a whole lot more. Again, this is Danny from the Famicast. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later.
Day or night to you as well, Charon. Glad you like it, mate. Thank you for helping me out with your supply, even if you fleeced me with those prices.